There's kind of this funny unwritten rule in product development. Don't put all of your best tech in your entry-level product. Well, you know who doesn't seem to give a damn about that rule? Apparently Apple. Let me explain. You see, the Apple Watch SE line has always been Apple's budget or value watch line. It has an older chipset usually, no always-on display, and significantly less health tracking features. But with the Apple Watch SE3, Apple is putting its best system-in-package processor in here, the S10, with a 4-core neural engine, 64 gigs of storage space. It's the exact same internals as the brand new Apple Watch Series 11. And that same Series 11 cost $400. And it's the exact same internals as the Apple Watch Ultra 3, a watch that cost $800. And the Apple Watch SE3 also gets the brand new 5G modem that was just announced for the Series 11 and the Apple Watch Ultra 3. Probably the biggest addition, in my opinion, to the SE3 is this new always-on display. But the price of the Apple Watch SE3 hasn't gone up a penny. It's still stubbornly stuck at $249, which I think is an impressive value for what we're seeing in this watch. Okay, I've actually started a video and titled a video very similar to this a few years back about a Coros watch, but I'm always super impressed when I see a company just throw out the rules book and drop in all of their newest and best components into a budget watch. Now, ironically, that watch did have dual band GPS, which is something that Apple only reserves for their Apple Watch Ultra series of devices. Apple calls it their precision dual frequency GPS. So maybe it would be helpful right off the bat if we just started by distinguishing what's actually missing from this watch in comparison to the Apple Watch Series 11 and the Apple Watch Ultra 3, because it's an impressively small list. And I think that that's what's so impressive about the Apple Watch SE3. Okay, so I mentioned the always-on display. For me, this was always the biggest reason to upgrade to the Apple Watch series of devices, but now the SE3 has that functionality. I will say that the screen isn't the exact same technology as what you'll find on the Apple Watch Ultra 3 or the Apple Watch Series 11. Those are using a wide-angle OLED screen, so LTPO3 versus LTPO display. LTPO stands for low temperature polycrystalline oxide display. I'm not sure if that's a huge deal. The newer screen has a wider viewing angle. It's a bit more energy efficient as well. And then you'll even notice when your watch dims, it still has the always on display mode that is showing seconds hand. So those are just some subtle differences between the two screen technologies here. But while we're looking at this display, I do want to mention that Apple is using a new Ion X glass on both of these watches. And Apple is saying that it's 4 times more resistant to cracks and scratches compared to the Apple Watch SE2. But the watch body and the color options on the Apple Watch SE3 is different from the Apple Watch Series 11 and the Apple Watch Ultra devices. Your choices are Midnight or Black and Starlight, and they're both aluminum cases. The Apple Watch Series 11 has 4 color options and then 3 color options on the Titanium Edition. Again, the Titanium Edition cost $700. And then the case size options on the Apple Watch SE3 are also smaller when compared to some of these other devices, probably because this watch is often used by kids. It's a great option for a lot of kids. The Apple Watch SE3 comes in a 40 or a 44 millimeter edition. The 11 comes in a 42 or 46 millimeter option. And then the Apple Watch Ultra is about 49 millimeters. And it's significantly thicker, regardless of whatever the specs say over on apple.com. But interestingly, the Apple Watch SE3 is actually ever so slightly thicker than the Apple Watch Series 11. It's not something that you're gonna notice, but it has about 1 millimeter more depth when compared to the Series 11 watch. And the Apple Watch SE3 also doesn't have the ECG functionality that the Apple Watch Series 11 and the Apple Watch Ultra 3 have. So keep in mind that ECG is not gonna alert you of a heart attack per se, but it is helpful if you're trying to figure out some sort of AFib event. The Apple Watch SE3 also doesn't have the same blood oxygen saturation sensor that the other watches have. And then the heart rate sensor here, it looks pretty similar. It's maybe ever so slightly different between these two watches here. Real quickly, we can actually look at some heart rate data if you guys would like. This is a 3-mile morning run comparing the Apple Watch SE3 to a Garmin watch that's getting its heart rate data from an ECG style chest strap, which we can basically assume is our control for accurate heart rate here, since it is getting it from the chest strap, which is kind of like an electrical signal coming from the heart. And you can see how closely the Apple Watch SE3 follows the chest heart rate monitor. And often smaller watches actually do very well on these heart rate accuracy tests, just because they don't tend to bounce around on the wrist as much. On that same run, here's a pretty large Garmin Fenix 8 Pro watch showing its heart rate data coming off of its optical heart rate sensor on the back of the watch. And then real quickly, while we're talking about data accuracy, here's the GPS tracks of those 3 devices for that 3-mile morning run. And you can actually tell that the Apple Watch SE3, it really doesn't have a lot of issues tracking alongside these other 2 Garmin devices that do have that dual band GPS technology. And this is just a morning run through some suburban neighborhoods. You actually might be able to tease out a few more differences if you are running in some sort of more extreme scenario. Maybe you're running alongside a skyscraper or like a sheer rock wall or something like that, where GPS signals can bounce around and get reflected and have issues that way. Now, maybe more importantly, the Apple Watch SE3 doesn't have quite as long of battery life as the new Apple Watch Series 11. It has all of these new features, including that always-on display, but it still maintains 18 hours of battery life, which is solid, but the Apple Watch Series 11 will now go 24 hours. And the Apple Watch Ultra 3 typically goes about twice that time on a single charge. But the Apple Watch SE3 has added faster charging, so 15 minutes of charging can get you about 8 hours of battery life, just standard usage style, or a quick 8-minute charge can give you up to 8 hours of sleep tracking. And then the last feature that I wanted to mention, as far as differences goes, the Apple Watch SE3 doesn't have the new hypertension alert. And this is a feature that, it doesn't really give you a true blood pressure, diastolic and systolic number, but more of an alert that you might want to start tracking your blood pressure numbers and maybe talk to your doctor about hypertension. It's kind of like Apple's sleep apnea notification, if you're familiar with that, which is actually coming to the new Apple Watch SE3. It'll track your sleep, and after a few weeks of tracking, it'll alert you that you might have a sleep apnea issue and suggest that you, again, follow up with your doctor for an actual diagnosis. And then the sleep tracking does get better with the Apple Watch SE3 compared to previous devices. It'll now track your sleep duration, and there's a new sleep score here as well. This sleep score is combining how consistent your bedtime is with data on any sort of sleep interruptions and the total duration of sleep that you get. I'd say it feels like just a nice, quick, and easy visual way to see how you're sleeping and where you can improve. And then this SE3 has a few more health improvements when compared to the SE2. For example, the temperature sensor here, it actually needs 2 temperature sensor gauges so that it can actually track and compare ambient temperature to wrist temperature. It's taking your wrist temperature every 5 seconds overnight, and it can detect changes as small as 0.1 degrees Celsius. And you can see this data in Apple's new Vital app, but the temperature is also used for ovulation tracking and retrospective ovulation estimates. Hey Siri, When was my last period?
You can find that in the Health app on iPhone.
Hey Siri, how much sleep did I get last night?
6 hours and 45 minutes.
I just weighed in and I'm up a good bit. I actually now weigh 400 pounds.
Done.
So Siri should have access to some of your health data, depending on if you give it access to your health data. And then the Apple Watch SE3 now has a better algorithm to help isolate your voice. And then the Apple Watch SE3 also gets the new AI workout buddy feature.
Way to get your workout started.
It's a very positive voice that'll pop in from time to time while you're working out and update you with stats and summaries about the workout that you've just done and all of your athletic achievements. There's a ton of new health features that rely on Apple's newest S10 chip in here. And I'm super impressed that Apple has dropped that chip into this watch. To me, it really does feel like Apple didn't hold back much of the newness from the September announcements here. This watch has the new liquid glass UI elements in it. It has the new gestures. So that's a double tap gesture. And it also has that new like flick to dismiss gesture. It has smart stacks. Basically, this watch gets all of the new items that are in Watch OS 26. So more stuff like the Notes app coming over from the iPhone to the Apple Watch, which is super cool. It's an app that I use a lot. The UI for the workout app got updated. I actually made a complete video just about Watch OS 26. If you do want to check that out, I'll link it up here in the top right corner of this video, and I'll drop a link of that video in the description of this video if you want to check that out. So, I actually think that overall, Apple actually might have a little bit of a problem on its hands here. The Apple Watch SE3 is really good. Is it missing stuff? Absolutely. But at $249, I'm super impressed with all of the stuff that Apple has included with this device. And I actually think that it might steal market share away from the Apple Watch Series 11 devices, especially for savvy shoppers. And I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comment section. Comment section is right below this video here, and it's right below the like button and the subscribe button below here. And either way, fancy new Apple Watch or no watch at all, I really do hope that you guys are getting out there and getting after it, and we will see you guys in the next one.